Uh,
So just
Check.
before we started recording, we were making Charlie Kirk jokes, but we'll keep those to ourselves.
I can neither confirm nor deny that accusation.
But
This is
as far
Dream
as far as I
Idiots.
know, he has not come back from the dead. This is Dream Idiots.
My name is Morris. That guy's Bryan. And each week we bring you stories from history, stories from our personal lives, story from current events, and just plain stories. Sometimes we make them up, but we let you know when we made them up. We don't hide that fact.
Hmm.
Bryan, you have an announcement for us this week. Is that correct?
One announcement, which I'll come to in just 1 second. Thanks for hanging in there with us and listening every week. We appreciate it. Please, as always, check out Dream Idiots. The whole back catalog is there. So it's dreamidiots.com. Check us out on Facebook, Instagram at Dream Idiots. Drop us a line if you want to give us a story idea or a curse word or something. Dream Idiots Podcast at Gmail. There's also a contact us form on the website. And like, share, subscribe our stuff. That would be hugely appreciated. The one announcement I had, so way back, I think it was episode 132, I talked about Suzanne Simpson. So I think folks have listened to us long enough to know that we were raised
Oh,
in
right,
San.
right, 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 right. Yeah, okay. I remember now. Okay.
So we were both raised in San Antonio. Morris no longer lives here, but I'm in San Antonio. Suzanne Simpson was the realtor who vanished almost coming up on a year ago, October of I think of 2025. And her husband is Brad Simpson, and he has been charged with, I believe, first degree murder in her disappearance. They've been hunting for her, haven't found her. She is presumed dead. The house they lived in has been recently put on the market, and Brad is still a guest of the county, but his trial has been set for February of next year. So hopefully those kids are okay. I believe they're being raised by grandparents now. But that story is proceeding.
So,
He was trying to get released on pending trial and wanted his kids back, and of course that's not going to happen. But
yeah, I don't want them to not have parents. What, you're the reason they don't have parents.
right,
Allegedly. What, so
allegedly, right.
he's been a guest of the Bear County Jail for the last year.
I believe he has been in custody this whole time.
Oh,
Right.
man.
Yeah. So there was
Well,
video of him appearing in front of a judge this week, and he was in an orange jumpsuit. And so I believe he has not been out a day since they arrested him, 10 and a half months ago. And so you have to probably assume this is not going to go great for him, but allegedly, well, we'll see.
well, to be fair, a lot of people can't pull orange off. That's a rough color. That's
Yeah. Well, Donald Trump. There you go.
I can neither confirm nor deny that we take turns going first, and this is episode 159, which is a
Hmm.
really cool number. It's a number I like a lot. It's one of the best numbers. And it means you get to go first, Bryan. What you got for us this week?
Well, I'm going to revisit a topic we have discussed in the past,
Oh boy.
because just recently, just here in the past week, they announced the 2025 winners of the Ig Nobel Prize.
Woohoo!
And so we have discussed this on a couple occasions in the past. So the Ig Nobel, Ignobel, is spoofing the Nobel Prize, and their catchphrase is that we're an award that seeks first to make people laugh and then to make them think. There actually is really a staggering amount of academic rigor and work that is behind the studies that receive these awards. And so it's not just pure silliness, but I do find these things just incredibly amusing that the people would work this hard on some things that are let's just say unique.
Well, with
I,
some of the ones in the past, I remember the one about one guy studied the angle of the dangle for the testicular sizes one year. All
right.
kinds of crazy stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In medieval or ancient Roman statues,
Hmm.
he believed that in depictions of Michelangelo's David, their nudes are rife through this style and this period of art and sculptures. With testicles, one testicle was always lower than the other, and so was there something going on at that period of human progress that would cause that because one testicle was always lower. I think it was almost always the left one as well was always lower than the right. So
Sounds right.
so there's rigor to it, but it is pretty bizarre and I don't know. Let's go with esoteric.
There you go.
So, first award for biology went to a team of folks from Japan. I'm not even going to attempt to say any of their names because I'll just butcher them. But they sought to determine whether or not if cows painted with zebra-like striping would be whether the striping would help them avoid being bitten by flies. So, a dairy farmer, or I mean, any farmer, and any beef farmer as well, will tell you that the flies are an absolute scourge of their industry, because cows are, when they're being bitten, they're throwing their heads, stomping their feet. The tails are working. Their skin twitches. I've seen that on you've seen that on cattle, and also on horses.
Hmm.
Just they do that weird motion just because they're desperate to get these creatures off of them. And so there's a direct economic cost tied with this sort of behavior because when they're doing that, they're grazing less, they're feeding less. And so they'll bed down for shorter times. They'll start bunching together, which increases heat stress on on animals. And so this just reduces yield, dairy yields or beef yields in these animals if they're being, the extent to which they're being impacted by bugs directly impacts the yield. So the animal that is essentially not bothered by flies at all is the zebra. So there's been, biologists have argued over this for a long period of time, and I think it has basically now been agreed that the black and white striping pattern it's not camouflage. It doesn't really help with predators, but it helps to repel flies because there something about the optics of it makes flies they can't figure out what to do with the contrast. And
Huh.
so in this study, they had a half dozen black cows. They found a water-based lacquer paint that would wash away after after a few days, and the cows were in they rotated the cows in and out of three different groups. One group had zebra stripes, one group had just black stripes, and the third group had no paint at all. They
The
were
control group.
the control group.
The cow troll
The
group.
cow troll
Cow
group,
troll
yes.
group.
Thank you. So the zebra stripes significantly decreased the number of biting flies on the cattle, and the animals. Again, the amount of fly repelling behaviors that they exhibited, dropped as well. The one exception was the skin twitching that I mentioned
Hmm.
earlier, and so there does seem to be a direct correlation. Whether or not there's a way to monetize this, I mean, I would assume someone might try to do that, but they did come to the conclusion that the black and white contrast just affects sort of motion detection or affects depth perception, and so flies can't figure out how to land on this surface, and so they don't.
That is astonishingly cool.
Yeah, it's bizarre, but interesting. Next one up, the award for chemistry went to Rotem Naftalovich, Daniel Naftalovich, and Frank Greenway. Seriously, you're not going to believe what I'm about to say. For experiments to test whether or not eating Teflon
Okay.
is a good way to increase food volume and hence drive up satiety without increasing calorie content. So, aspartame, all the 0 calorie shit that's in diet drinks, they're in there because they're effective, but those molecules can't be metabolized by the human body. It turns out Teflon is heat resistant. It's resistant to stomach acid. It really is. They're now seemingly advocating for this idea that because Teflon is impervious to anything that the body might might do to it, you could actually, for some types of foods, add 25% Teflon powder to the food to increase its bulk. So there is a greater sense of feeling full. And since you would just pass right through you, I mean, it could be like a diet aid, basically. So, the authors were also clear to point out that the average person might not love this idea because at some point in the last 10 or 20 years, I think people were saying that if you had Teflon surfaces for on cook surfaces anyway, for too long and they started to flake, you had to throw them away because those surfaces,
Hmm.
if you ingested them, were cancerous. Right? So whether again, that those concerns are now being dismissed, I guess. But in trials, they have put Teflon powder into food for rats. Rats pass it right through, no problem. No increase of any kind that is alarming. And Teflon is also already being used now in lab work. It's used to coat stirring rods and other medical devices already because the body can completely tolerate it. It's used in catheters. It's used in IV fertilization. And so these guys are suggesting that it could be added to food as well. It doesn't affect sperm motility, but again, it's kind of a hard sell in terms of
I want to
the,
see an
the consumer
educational.
market.
I wanted to see an educational science film done in the old style that we had to watch. Teflon,
It's good for you.
your dear, dear friend. Teflon is in many things.
It will give you X-ray vision. So the award for physics went to a team mostly from Italy, based on the names I'm seeing here. Again, I won't even try to read any of them. They got this award for discoveries about the physics of pasta sauce, especially the phased transition that can lead to clumping, which can make a pasta sauce just not very pleasant. So, pasta alla cacio e pepe is a simple dish that's basically a pecorino cheese and pepper sauce that is very, very smooth. And so, at first glance, the sauce you would think is simple, but it's apparently a very difficult sauce to make because having it come out smooth is apparently quite difficult. And so these folks sought to refine this recipe basically, and they published a paper in the a journal called The Physics of Fluids, and there are all these tips about how to use cornstarch in just the right way in order to adding cornstarch, and how to use the pasta water in just the right way to make sure that your pasta sauce is as perfect as it can be.
Hmm.
In engineering design, the award went to Vikash Kumar and Sarthak Mittal for
So you won't
analyzing.
do Italian names, but you'll throw those out.
Well, yeah, the Italian names, in my defense, there were like 10 of them. So,
Oh, okay.
so these two analyzed from an engineering perspective how foul smelling shoes
Oh, Jesus.
affect the the good experience of a shoe rack. So shoe odor is a universal problem. The note says even in India, I would say especially in India, where these two people come from, heat, humidity, in those densely populated areas, folks are walking more, folks are sweating more, even it is, in any weather basically. Then you add in, poor ventilation and maybe not great washing, so shoes just stink. Most Indian households use shoe racks. I've never owned a shoe rack in my life, but those odors can just become awful. Nobody had really studied the this shoe problem as it relates to shoe racks, but these two did a study with 149 students. More than half reported that they were not super comfortable with the idea of basically having their odor smelled. But they did almost uniformly have shoe racks at home, and they used all the sort of common methods used to combat odor, washing them, drying them in the sun, using spray deodorants, sprinkling the shoes with antibacterial powder, all the typical
Hmm.
things. And also, tea tree oil and coconut oil apparently help with these odors. But what they found out is that if you put shoes under a UVC, just a UV light, you can
Hmm.
buy a UVC light bulb. UV light rays um, completely obliterate the bacteria that creates the smell, and so you create a shoe rack that has one of these lights in it, and it basically just irradiates
That is pretty cool.
the cause of the smell. And it's not like it's slightly better; it is completely eradicated. Uh, so I don't know,
That's
kind of
really
cool,
neat.
right?
And you can figure out in your family who's really into the stinky shoe stuff. If you find them one night unscrewing the bulb, and it's like, "What are you up to?"
Why are you laying in
Nothing.
the closet? Right.
Nothing.
So the award for aviation went to Francisco Sanchez, Mariana Melcon, Carmi Corinne, and Barry Pinchot for studying whether ingesting alcohol can impair bats' ability to fly or to echolocate. So I've seen stories about this in the past. I think it's the case that elephants. I mean, there's a whole host of examples of mammals and invertebrates and all. There's fruit that goes rotten
Hmm.
and gets them drunk, and they actually will then seek it out at various points in time when they know and so they'll actually seek out uh, you know alcohol for its effects.
There's a very good
Uh,
story about a moose up in Alaska who was notorious in the little town where he lived near, who
I
would just get absolutely trashed on
on
various
pears or
fruit.
right, right.
Got
Okay.
a call from the bartender called the cops one night and said there's a moose here and he won't leave, and he was just standing in the courtyard just abs and the guy went up and kind of waved his hand, and you could tell he just had this dull glazed look in his eyes. And
Hmm. That's pretty
they call
funny.
I think they called him Buzzwinkle was his nickname. I think, yeah.
Yeah, that's perfect.
Hmm.
So it's pretty rife. There are some of these creatures are more or less vulnerable as a result because being drunk that certainly makes you more susceptible to predators and more accident prone because you have lower motor coordination. And so this study, they looked at Egyptian fruit bats and ethanol, there are fruits that when they ferment, they do suddenly have high
Hmm.
ethanol. And so the authors wanted to find out if the bats wanted to avoid these fruit because there was somehow a negative over time over evolution. They sought to avoid being inebriated. So they kept these bats in what they call a long flight corridor. So it's a caged area, but it's long and narrow. It's a straight line.
Hmm.
Okay. The bats were given liquid food with varying amounts of ethanol and then released into this corridor with the authors timing how long it took each bat to fly from one end to the other. A second experiment showed, was exactly the same, but this time they just recorded the bats' echolocation calls with they had an ultrasonic microphone. So the bats that received the liquid food with the highest ethanol content definitely took longer to fly from one end to the other. So quote evidence of impaired flight ability, and those bats also had diminished echolocation abilities. Because these animals are flying in darkness, so they're flying badly, but they're also more likely to crash into shit in midair
And
because
each other.
at each other, right? Because they can't. Their system is definitely not working great,
And they got to stop every now and then to pee in the side of the tunnel because,
right? Pull over here.
don't break the seal, Larry.
The award for psychology went to a couple men for this is the one that kind of interested me the most. They sought to determine what happens when you tell narcissists, or really anyone for that matter, that they are intelligent. What happens when you get into that feedback loop and seek to enhance it? Not all narcissists are the same. There are vulnerable narcissists, and they're the ones who tend to be more socially withdrawn, have lower self-esteem, are prone to have negative emotions, do negative self-talk. But then there are grandiose narcissists, which are the ones that are much more known and are more prevalent, and they exhibit boldness, high self-esteem, and they're the ones who always overestimate their intelligence, their abilities, whatever. So the prevailing view is that this overconfidence is a direct result of narcissism. So the authors wanted to explore whether this might work in reverse. Essentially that believing that one has superior intelligence is due to positive external feedback that can lead to at least a temporary state of narcissism, but also does that work positively and negatively? So if you're given positive feedback, will your opinion of your abilities exceed the objective data? And then also, if you're given negative feedback and you're told you do poorly, will you then come to the conclusion that your ability is actually lower than it tested? If that makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
Okay. And this is just
Uh,
with narcissists, people who
just,
are
just right. Just
diagnosed
right.
with narcissism. Okay.
Right. And so these researchers they recruited 361 people, participants from Poland. They were asked to rate their level of intelligence compared to other people, complete the Polish version of the narcissistic personality inventory,
Okay.
and take an IQ test that can to compare their perceptions of their own intelligence with an objective measurement, basically. So the group was then randomly assigned to one of two groups. One group had the positive feedback, telling them that they did indeed have a higher IQ than most people, and the others were told that they have a lower IQ than most people.
We're going to put the gold group is going to come up in here, and the shit brown group is going to go to
Right,
the basement.
right. And the bile group is right. So the results, basically confirmed their hypothesis. In general, participants gave lower estimates of their relative intelligence after completing the IQ test, which provided, an objective check of sorts. But the type of feedback they received had a measurable impact. Positive feedback enhanced their feelings of uniqueness, which is the key aspect of grandiose narcissist. Those who received negative feedback rated their own intelligence as being lower, and that negative feedback had a larger negative impact than the positive feedback had a positive impact. Okay.
Gotcha. Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah, so it's interesting. The authors concluded that external feedback helped shape the subject's perception of their own intelligence, regardless of the accuracy of that feedback. So they are even told, here's average. Here's what your score is relative to average, and the feedback was what the participants listened to more than the objective number. Okay, so if average was
Hmm.
12 and you got 13, and you were told you're a fucking genius, well, no one looked at that and said, "Well, I'm just 1 point higher than average."
Hmm.
The feedback, the emotional reward or detriment of the feedback weighed much more heavily than the objective data. Which I don't know what this. I'm not sure what I think about that, but it's certainly interesting.
So
Uh,
what you're saying is that the press corps should start every, Mr. President, you're a dumb shit. Now, as to your tariff,
right. No, that's the objective feedback, right?
mhm.
So the award for nutrition. This one's just kind of weird. I don't. This one's bizarre. Uh, this group they studied the extent to which a certain kind of lizard chooses to eat certain kinds of pizza. So, so rainbow lizards, to be precise, in West Africa. So one of these lizards, um, at a resort, is spotted stealing a piece of pizza from a tourist, and it's a four cheese pizza, and this lizard steals it like a dog would, runs off, and wolfs it down.
How big is this lizard?
It must be pretty good
Jesus.
size. So they wanted to find out if this is just an isolated incident or is this pretty common? These resorts have been there for decades, and is this now just part of their regular, you know, appetite, I guess. And so they put out a little buffet. It took only 15 minutes for the lizards to find the pizza and eat it. Sometimes they fought over over slices because they didn't put out enough for everyone. They only ate the four cheese pizza. And the authors concluded that there's some type of chemical cue, of some, for lack of a better term, that attracts them to cheesy pizza, or maybe it's just easier for them to digest. But so results there a little, I don't know, on the fence. The award for pediatrics went to Julie Manella and Gary Beauchamp. They studied what a nursing baby experiences when the baby's mother eats garlic. So they had two questions. Does the consumption of garlic alter the odor of a mother's breast milk? And if so, whether those changes affect the behavior of nursing infants. So garlic, like asparagus, and onion can have all kinds of weird effects. And it's people are on that spectrum of whether or not or to what extent there is an impact. So they had 8 women who were exclusively breastfeeding their infants at the time. Took samples of breast milk over a period of time when they had abstained from eating garlic, onion, or asparagus, and then had more samples after the mothers consumed,
Oh, okay.
consumed garlic or placebo,
So they
uh,
provided their own
their own breast milk.
a control sample then for
Right, right,
the
right,
okay.
right,
All
right.
right, gotcha.
So the moms who ingested the garlic capsules produced milk with a perceptibly more intense odor, as evaluated by several panelists who were brought in to sniff the samples.
Where'd they get those people from? Hey, come here. You want to make some money?
We had the foot fetishist. Now here's the breast milk fetishist. The strong odor peaked at 2 hours after ingestion, and
Wow.
decreased fats, which is consistent with prior research on they've done apparently these types of tests with cow milk as well. As for the infants, those whose mothers ingested garlic attached to the breast for longer periods and sucked more when milk smelled like garlic, uh, which is just crazy. Uh, this could be relevant to ongoing efforts to determine whether sensory experiences during breastfeeding can influence how readily infants accept new foods. Um,
Hmm.
and I read that sentence, and I still don't. I've read that sentence now 5 times, and I still don't know what that means. But it certainly does have an impact on, um, you know,
Is that
the
suggesting that
the maternally bonding experience, I guess.
a diet that includes a variety of tastes that are kind of run the gamut
Uh,
will?
yeah, I guess so. Right.
Wow.
Yeah. And two more. I'll zip over quickly. The word for literature went to a man named William Bean. The late Dr. William Bean. He persistently recorded and analyzed the rate of growth of one of his fingernails for 35 years. He has since passed, but his son was there to collect to collect the award. Uh, okay, it seems. I mean, I'm not saying there's no merit there, but a
Now, wait a
level
minute.
a level
What?
of diligence there that I don't have.
Wait. So would he ever cut the nail?
Yeah, he trimmed it all the time, but noted that people think that the fingernails and hair grow after death. He says no, they don't. He trimmed it all the time, but he very closely monitored how quickly it grew, in relation to his age, in relation to his current health and his diet and other regimens. He always trimmed it, but he monitored
Okay.
how quickly it grew, discoloration and those types of things. So
Get it?
there's some merit there.
The idea that they keep growing after has to do with like dehydration of the body, right? That
Right. It's shrinkage
it
and
appears
right,
your hair
right,
appears to grow, but it really isn't. It's your body
right. Yes.
dehydrating essentially. Okay.
And the last one, and without a doubt, my favorite one, is the Ig Nobel to the 2025 Ig Nobel Prize for Peace. Went to Fritz Renner, Inga Kersbergen, Matt Field, and Jessica Worthman for showing that drinking alcohol sometimes improves a person's ability to speak in a foreign language. So, alcohol is obviously known to have a fairly detrimental effect on, let's just call it executive functioning. So, memory, inhibitions, just
Hmm.
general processing. It doesn't really enhance any of any of those
No.
things. But there is which I didn't know until I read this, a widespread belief among people who are bilingual that a little bit of booze actually improves your fluency. Uh, but fluency also relies on executive functioning. So you're saying two things that are polar opposites of each other. Uh, so they recruited 50 native speaking Germans, undergrad psych students, and all 50 of these Germans were also
They're a
fluent.
fun bunch.
They're also fluent in Dutch. So they were randomly divided into two groups. One group was given a vodka with bitter lemon, and the other group was given water. Each participant consumed enough to be slightly intoxicated after 15 minutes and then engaged in a discussion in Dutch with a native Dutch speaker. Afterward, they were asked to rate their self perception of their skill at Dutch, with the Dutch speakers offering independent observer ratings. The researchers were surprised to find that intoxication improved the Dutch the Dutch fluency based on the independent observer reports. Self evaluation was largely unaffected by intoxication levels. Their basic conclusion d- came down to the fact that it didn't really impact fluency so much as it impacted the participants' willingness to try, basically, because their inhibition was lower.
Inhibitions. Yeah, makes
Right?
sense.
They're like, okay, this is going to be a complete fuck up. So, but they try anyway because their inhibition had been lowered, and so it fosters the illusion that they're more fluent when they weren't. But anyway,
That is actually really fascinating because what if you because German and Dutch, I believe, are from the same language family
yeah, there's
with
I think there's
Swedish and
all
English and
yeah
so what if you took like a German speaker
with
and they had
Italian,
to with Italian or with Mandarin and how that would
right? That might
that
be
that's
harder.
that's fascinating
Yeah,
to
pretty
move it.
pretty pretty funny.
That's I that's incredible.
So the 2025 Ig Nobel Prize, it was simulcast on the internet. There is a recording of the entire award ceremony. It's campy and ridiculous, and award winners. I think all those folks had sent at least one member of their team there to receive the award. If you go longer than 60 seconds in your acceptance speech, a 10-year-old girl walks out and says really loudly, "I'm bored."
I remember that. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's good.
And then people in the audience are expected to bring, as many folded paper airplanes as you can bring, and they they're throwing paper airplanes the whole time, and it's kind of silly, but there is some real merit to it, and people seem to like
That's
receiving them. I don't
that's
know.
some cool shit.
Yeah, I think they're pretty amusing.
Well, I mean, Jesus, the the solution for stinky shoes is
I mean,
that
that's a
that could
real. I
be
mean,
it.
you could really make those.
Could you imagine like selling that kit at a college bookstore?
Right.
Right? I mean,
$89.
seriously, and just guys, it smells like feet in here, and put that thing out and see that is cool. That is
Yeah.
very cool. Thank you, Brian. I this is one of those topics that I don't think about, but when you bring it up, I'm like, oh yeah, I love this because it's just
Uh,
so much lateral thinking going on with this kind of stuff. It's super
yeah.
fun.
Fairly out there esoteric stuff.
I guess this is the third time you've done this. This is how long we've been doing the podcast. I guess this is
Yeah.
the third
Third
ignoble.
time. Yep.
Speaking of being ignoble,
Hmm.
you have a curse word of the week?
Well, I have a small collection because these are I'm going to have a backlog. So some of these have come up before. This is I found recently online a graphic that you can only call the UK tour of Dream Idiot's curse words. Okay, you can do so Scotland and England together are Great Britain, and then you add Wales and
Wales.
Northern, and then and then add Wales and Northern Ireland for for UK. I forget. Anyway, this is just
That sounds
England.
right.
This is just England and Scotland. This is the driving tour. A couple of these I have mentioned in the past. So if you start on the very southern coast of England, very close to Dover, you can visit the town of Shitterton, we have mentioned in the past.
Mm-hmm.
You can proceed just very, very slightly to the east and drive through the picturesque town of Ass Hill.
Mm-hmm.
Drive up through London.
That's trapped in a that's actually perched in a windy valley, isn't it? Asshole.
Yeah, yeah, very much so.
Yeah.
Uh, Drive through London. East of London, there is the cute seaside town of Fingringhoe. Drive 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 north to Sluts Hole Lane. You can then head west to Birmingham. Turn north at Birmingham. As you're headed up towards Scotland, you can drive through Cock Alley.
We have one of those here in Denver. It's off of
Uh, the
Colfax.
the thriving metropolis that is Peniston. Then going further north, roughly even with the Isle of Man, we reach close to the Scottish border. You reach Cockermouth, which we had mentioned before.
Yes, we have.
Proceeding north into Scotland, straight east of Glasgow, you drive through Dick Place.
Mm-hmm.
Going further north, you can pass through Cockbridge, and then going all the way
Is
north.
that two cocks meeting in the middle like a little drawbridge where the
Huh?
tips touch over the river?
Yes. Uh-huh.
Okay.
And then all the way north, the very, very northern tip of Scotland, there is the seaside island village of Twat. I'm not sure if you can see that or not, but
I can't. Jesus Christ. We are
so
such children. My God.
I didn't make that graphic. I stumbled across that graphic online. Someone else saw that and thought, wow, that's fucking funny. And I'm just
Yeah, you're just the
pushing it
reservoir.
forward.
You're just the reservoir tip of knowledge that is the used
I've
condom
been called that so many times I
of
can't
this
even tell you.
podcast. So you could really do a tour of these cities
Mhm.
by motor car.
Yeah,
Uh,
so that drive is 1100 miles, but you could do it.
okay. Well, it's been I, I've always wanted to do Route 66, the original Route 66, but I think this might this might
Might top it.
might top
Peniston.
it. Yeah.
And if you're born and raised in Peniston, does that make you a Penistonian? I don't know.
Penistonian,
Asking the hard questions.
a twatter,
Hmm Twattonian.
cockermouthian. That's that's awful. I do apologize for this bit. This is the worst thing we've done since Animancy, which really wasn't that long ago. But anyway, thank you, Bryan. That was
Mhm.
disgusting. Are you ready for you're ready
I'm
for my
ready.
story? Okay, Bryan. Uh, you've been to Denver a couple times. You're coming here next month for a few days. You can hang out for Halloween. When passing through the Denver airport amidst the buried secrets of aliens and other conspiracy theories, you may notice a series of large signs. These signs consist of usually a white or black background, sometimes with a celebrity, and a single word, white text in a red
Just at the
rectangle.
airport or across Denver?
Just, well, in the airport. In the airport was where
Oh.
I first saw them. For example, a sign featuring Dolly Parton has the phrase, find the good in everybody, with the single word kindness in white text on that aforementioned red rectangle. Underneath it reads passiton.com. And then the words, the foundation for a better life.
Hmm.
Are you familiar with these signs, Bryan? Have you seen any of these before? In
Uh,
they'd be on
mm-mm.
billboards, posters. Okay. Other
No.
signs might feature a non celebrity, for example, a nurse, a doctor, or in one case, a teacher. An African American woman, arms crossed over a pink sweater, piece of chalk in her hand. Her smile is warm. Kids have potential, the sign reads. Teachers unlock it. The word for the sign is appreciation. The creators are Jay Schulberg, who gave us the Got Milk campaign in the
Oh yeah.
90s, the Milk Mustache, and Bernie Hogya. I think I'm pronouncing that correctly. There's more to posters. There's more than just posters and billboards in this campaign, with spots appearing on television, radio, and the internet. I've heard them on the internet. The PassItOn.com website offers a variety of resources for the classroom, primarily making their posters free to teachers and educators. They
Oh
send them out
cool.
in groups of three. It falls this Pass It On falls under the aegis of the aforementioned Foundation for a Better Life, which I'm probably going to refer to as FBL from here on out. This foundation is a nonprofit 501c3 started in 1999, so they've been around a while. The first PSA campaign was scheduled for September 13th, 2001. As you might guess, that got derailed, and it was moved to November 9th of the same year. The initial rollout consisted of about 10,000 billboards, signs, and posters across the United States. The foundation, ostensibly, is non-political and non-sectarian. No politics, no religion, right?
Hmm?
The goal seems to be to encourage individual contributions to the betterment of society by action, by passing it on. The foundation takes no donations from the public. The FBL is entirely funded by the Anschutz Foundation. Have you heard of the Anschutz Foundation, Brian?
Yes, I have, but I couldn't tell you why.
Okay. Now, if you're one of our listeners here in Colorado, uh, that name is going to be familiar because the Anschutz campus off I-225 houses the University of Colorado Anschutz, an educational medical institution. There's a children's hospital on the grounds, and I currently visit the oncology center there for follow-up appointments. So the Anschutz campus is a big deal. It's on one of the old Air Force bases, part of it. The Anschutz family, the aforementioned foundation's namesake, is the biggest player in Colorado. Philip Anschutz, the head of the family, is the richest man in the state and the 45th richest in the country. One thing I looked at said he's the 130th wealthiest person in the world.
No.
At various times, his company, the Anschutz Entertainment Group, owned or partially owned the following: the Los Angeles Lakers, part owner; the Los Angeles Kings, half owner. That's of the NHL. The Los Angeles Sparks, part owner of the WNBA team. The Los Angeles Galaxy in the MLS. I think at one point they owned the Colorado Rapids when the MLS first started, and then he sold them off. A long list of entertainments and sports venues, including the Crypto.com Arena in Los Angeles, where the Clippers play, and the Oxygen or the O2 in London, which is another
Yeah.
sports venue. Is that what it's called? The O2 or the
O2.
Oxygen? Okay.
O2, I think.
Um, the Entrance Entertainment Group owns the Coachella Music Festival, Brian.
Oh, well,
The Entrance Entertainment Group owns Axis, AXS, which you might recognize if you go to live music. It's second only to Live Nation as a presenter of live entertainment, particularly music. If you have the app, you have to use the Axis app often to go to shows,
right.
right? Because it's got your ticket on there electronically. Several movie theater chains across the United States, including Edwards, which we had in Houston, Regal Cinema, and United Artists, which ironically is a film company that was a movie theater chain that was started as part of United Artists, who basically kind of went independent. It was a small group of United Artists when it was formed, Charlie Chaplin among them, and they own a lot more. So this company, the Anschutz Entertainment Group, is big and rich and powerful. And as such, it seems that the Foundation for a Better Life is a good thing, trying to promote values that build a society and help others flourish. Here comes the big but. But as Stephen Prager, no relation to PragerU, as Stephen Prager points out in his invaluable article entitled "The Sinister Politics of Pass It On Billboards," the title kind of gives it away, right? The
Hmm.
sinister politics. Despite the seeming beneficence of the Pass It On campaign, what's behind it is the Anschutz Foundation And behind that is Philip Anschutz, who has a long history of supporting right-wing organizations, such as, see if you've heard of any of these, Brian, the Parents Television Council. Heard of them?
I believe I have.
They want to step up government censorship of programs they don't like. The Defense Fund, now known as the Alliance Defending Freedom. This is a Christian organization that is anti LGBTQ. It's anti same sex marriage, and it carries a hate group designation by the Southern Poverty Law Center. The Family Research Council,
Mm.
the Heritage Foundation.
Mm. Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and
Scumbags, right?
they want to defend AIDS relief programs. That's right. And then this one is perhaps the most menacing sounding one, the National Christian Foundation. I'm telling you, we're not nationalist Christians.
Right.
We're Christian nationalists. Not sure what that means, but it does not sound good.
Right.
Colorado Christian University, a local school here.
Mm-hmm.
I've got some friends who attended Colorado Christian University, and the university has in the past threatened to expel students for same-sex quote sexual activity and quote dressing or acting differently than the biological gender that God created a student to be. Any thoughts so far on?
Yeah, I mean, this is just part and parcel of all this other right wing crazy horse shit. We've been saying forever. I have a story about a Texas right winger. I'm gonna do on the podcast probably between now and the end of the year. Someone who is integral to George Bush's rise, and it's the same lying right wing shit show these folks have been using forever. We're Christian, and Christians in quotes are always the worst Christians.
I
Right,
yes, the
right,
people who most claim most vehemently to be Christians are usually the least capable of acting like it.
right.
I'm going to read directly from Stephen Prager's article. He is a research fellow at Indiana University, and he's a hell of a writer. And his article and a couple others are the sources for this piece. This is directly from Stephen Prager. And I think this sums up my feelings about this quite nicely. The typical pass it on ad does a lot of work to send a contradictory message to its viewers. You, the viewer, can make the world better by heeding its wisdom. But absent from the message is the idea that societal problems can actually be solved by groups of people getting together to change society, or that problems are the results of decisions made by other actors. And as an example of this, one of the people that appears on the boards is sometimes they use folks that you wouldn't know who aren't celebrities. But they had one billboard that featured a shoemaker in Pittsburgh who over the course of his lifetime donated $100,000 for I believe kids cancer treatments.
Mm,
And the end things the thing that is left unsaid in that is, why the fuck is this guy having to do this? We live in the richest country in the world. Why are these kids having to rely on donations to get their fucking treatment?
right.
Right? I mean, it's great that he's doing this, but he shouldn't have to do this. And something that I wanted to bring up, because Prager doesn't directly address this, and I think it's not inside the purview of what he was trying to do with his piece, which I highly recommend you read, and I'll give you the sources for that in a moment. Who exactly are these ads targeted to?
I mean, probably just sort of average folks, middle America, right?
Yeah, but I mean, who looks at a billboard with Dolly Parton on it and says, you know what? Fuck Dolly Parton and fuck kindness. Who does that?
I
Anybody
mean,
who, any,
look at all of the recalcitrant, awful behavior that's being exhibited now with people just losing their shit in public at anyone who's different than them or who presents as different than them. I mean, everyone, average folks like to have someone to look down on, and
Mhm.
who apparently and who they can judge.
um, anybody who looks at the Dolly Parton poster and says, fuck kindness, um, has delusions about what kindness is
Right.
and isn't going to think the ad is for them. In other words, when you see that ad, that PSA poster,
Uh,
it's appealing to people who are probably pretty nice and kind to begin with. I thought of your mother when I was writing this story. Oh yes,
mhm,
that's a good message. Kindness, pass it on. Not knowing what's behind it, which is this right-wing dude who has given to some horrible, horrible groups of people.
mhm,
And yes, he did donate a considerable amount of money to AIDS research. Elton John's AIDS Foundation. Elton John has appeared on one of the posters. But the people that it needs to reach the most aren't going to get the message.
right.
And like Prager said, it doesn't include this idea that there are greater societal forces at work, that if we just took a moment to think about the larger picture, if we change the way we do things in our society and try to take care of people who need, I'm very fortunate in that when I had my diagnosis, my wife has good insurance, right? It shouldn't be like that. It
Right.
should not be like that. It's like when I used to go in to see a doctor and they'd say, we'll take care of you. I know your dad because he's a doctor. It shouldn't be like that. You shouldn't be treating me any different because I'm coming in with this advantage. And further to the point of the way I first saw it, when have airports become a place where people discover their decorum and manners? Have you not been to an airport lately? Now, I myself have not seen any of these things that I routinely see on Reddit of people just losing their goddamn minds in airports. But are they there to calm us down when we get off the plane? What exactly? I just don't get it. The ads belie the backing that is provided to it by the foundation, which is provided by another foundation, which is provided by a man who has lots and lots of money.
Mhm.
And nothing about any of the groups that I listed above preach anything remotely close to compassion
No, of course not. Yeah.
or understanding. And so, what are we ultimately supposed to take away from this? Because it seems, and the word that Stephen Prager uses often is empty platitudes. And I used to like looking at these posters, but after reading this and thinking about it, I'm like, yes, they are empty platitudes.
Right.
Um,
It's it's
and what
it's it's thoughts and prayers.
it's exactly it's thoughts and prayers.
Right. Yeah.
Well, we're not going to change the gun culture in this
Right.
country, so we might as well learn to deal with it. When my father said that or an approximation to that, I almost went no contact with him because we that day we had an active shooter in our neighborhood, and I was locked down in elementary school with my Cub Scouts who were there to. It was on Veterans Day, who were there to basically do the flag ceremony and lead the group in the Pledge of Allegiance, and I ended up getting stuck in the elementary school in full lockdown because there was an asshole wandering around the neighborhood with a gun.
Mhm.
Well, it's good that we've got that in place. We shouldn't have to lock the fucking schools down.
Right. I mean, not to give any more airtime to this story, uh, you know, Charlie Kirk is the perfect example of this phenomenon. The man was a hate mongering, right wing, uh, not a journalist, not a debater, online bully who advocated for and encouraged violence. Actively said that gun violence, just similar to what your father said, gun violence is the small but worthwhile price we have to pay for gun rights. And then he basically died by irony. And I'm choosing to edit myself online a little bit more than I would have ordinarily, but I was chastised by a couple of people online, one of whom I actually know, for my lack of empathy. I don't have any empathy for him. These people, these right wingers who claim to be Christians, my running commentary is that about them and about Republicans in general is that if they didn't have double standards, they wouldn't have standards at all. You know, thoughts and prayers response to these things is I don't get what people like Ted Cruz get out of saying things like that, and I don't understand why his supporters hear that and are reassured by it, are consoled by it. What do you what's wrong with you? What is broken in your in your brain? Is your empathy chip so thoroughly pulverized by cognitive dissonance or toying in the line or whatever the fuck it is that you don't see that you are just dead wrong. I don't know.
I don't either. And
But
the older I get, and I've been talking with a friend of mine about this, the older I get, the more I think that empathy is a sense, like sight and touch and hearing, and it's a sense.
so you,
Eh,
you either you have it from the get-go or you don't.
Or you have I have horrible vision.
Right.
Now, the problem with this argument is that it excuses their fucking awful behavior.
Well, yeah. Right.
Well, I was born without the empathy gene. Um, as a way to kind of bring this to a somewhat humorous close, there's a couple of parody billboards that feature Anschutz himself, and it
Uh,
says, "Adversity is good," and then below it says, "Especially when you inherit $15 billion. Inheritance, pass it on." Just pointing to the
right.
hypocrisy of it, and and
Completely duplicitous nature.
Prager's ultimate argument is that the little people like you and me, we go about reading the sign, trying to make ourselves better people, while people in Prager's in Anschutz's world do it by buying off lobbyists. He's also
Right.
supported anti-climate change things too, so that should come as no
Of course
surprise.
he is. Right. Right. Right.
Because he made his fortune. The family, he didn't make the fortune, his dad did. Made his fortune in the oil business. So uh, I
How much money? First of all, how much money do you need?
how much money do you, and he's got so much he's giving it away, right? I mean,
Right. So yeah.
so I don't know what to do with this. It's the person inside me is like, oh, that's a great message, that's nice, and then you start thinking about Jesus Christ. It's a bit like it's okay if you suffer in this world because the next world's going to be better. If you've been good, you get to go to a place with harps and angels and clouds and
Yeah.
moon pies and donuts and candy mountains. And
Yeah, the grace of
anyway,
God will, it's all in someone else's hands, Morris. I mean, haven't you learned that by now?
sources for this piece: Stephen Prager's September October 2023 article at currentevents.org called "The Sinister Politics of Pass It On Billboards." Wikipedia for basic information on wealth and ownership of the Anschutz Group, the Anschutz Entertainment Group, I should say. Um, but I mean, I get my medical treatment at University of Colorado Anschutz campus.
Hmm?
That's where my oncologist is. So you can't escape it. And I'm going to the airport Wednesday. I can't wait to see these posters after doing the story. I'm gonna look,
Right. Yeah,
anyway.
when I come back through the Denver airport here soon, I'll definitely keep an eye out now.
Well, there's
But
also people on there where I'm like, I see them and it's like, I don't know who that is. So I go home and look them up. And I'm like, oh, it's someone from American Idol. What the fuck? I
oh
mean, it's just like,
yeah, yeah,
I know Dolly Parton
we're old
is.
now.
Muhammad Ali was featured on one
Oh, jeez.
because he would have still been alive when they started this campaign in 1999.
Right.
Uh, Elton John, Garth Brooks, all kinds of people. And then folks who don't have names that we easily recognize. So
Right.
it's in
Ugh.
my opinion, it's pretty insidious.
Yeah, it's sad. Yeah, well, yeah, all of it is. Yeah, all of it is. Awful,
And
but
on that
interesting.
note, oh, it is interesting, and
Yeah.
I may do another piece
Way to
on
bring us down.
I may do another piece on a more well-known and recent ad campaign that we've seen a lot of, and it actually rankled a few folks when it appeared on the Super Bowl last year. So I might do a story on that. We'll
Oh,
see.
okay.
You know
Yeah.
which one you know which one I'm thinking of.
I- well,
He gets us.
oh,
He gets
yeah.
us. Yeah, I might do a little digging on that one because that one seems pretty.
Yes. Makes your skin crawl, doesn't
It
it?
it does, and it's just the insidious hypocrisy of it is just it's galling. All right, folks. As always, check out our stuff, please. Rate us, review us. Dream Idiots Podcast. Go there. Be good to each other. And that's not me trying to impersonate Dolly Parton or Muhammad Ali. That's what I say, I think, every time. Just, be good to each other, which I'm sure most of you do because you listen to this podcast and we're we try to be good.
Mhm. And we need to, I'm thinking just now, we need to add a t-shirt to the merch store that says, Dream idiots, be good to each other.
That'd be great. I'd
Yeah.
wear that.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah. All right, folks. Well, until next time, please be good to each other. No, you know what? Keep being good to each other because I know you're doing that anyway. Keep being good to each other because we need more and more every day.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Totally agree.
All
All
right.
right. Bye.
Bye.